What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to our channel, Honest Hockey Takes. Today, we'll be doing a video on rookies to watch for this upcoming NHL season. We have compiled a list of 10 players who we feel are going to be impactful players for this upcoming NHL season, and I will be interviewing Scott on why we like these players. Okay, so the first player I have on the list, Scott, is Matty Beniers from the Seattle Kraken. My question is, what are your expectations for this player for this upcoming NHL season?
I have really high expectations for Matty Beniers. As a matter of fact, I have him as my Calder winner for this year. This player has such a good, complete, all-around game. When I watch him, I think to myself, wow, this guy is like advanced beyond his years. He doesn't play like a true rookie. He plays like a player who's been in the league for like 5 to 6 years. He just looks so good, both offensively and defensively. And I think on this team, being on the Kraken, it's a newer team, not a lot of star power, he's going to get every opportunity. He's slotted in right now to be on the first line, most likely playing along Jaden Schwartz and Andre Burakovsky, and he's going to be centering the power play one. This guy has every opportunity to put up a ton of points this year, as well as just have a ton of ice time for a rookie. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he's averaging 19 to 20 minutes a game as a first-year player. We got a little bit of a taste of it last year when he played those 10 games, had 9 points. 9 points in 10 games as a true rookie. Like, it's incredible, guys. And I wouldn't be surprised if he was this team's all-star selection.
And to add on to that, even the way he got those points were unbelievable passes to like players that it's just an unbelievable passes that he had, right? The playmaking ability of this player.
Oh yeah, no, he's primarily a playmaker, but what's even funnier right now is in the preseason this year, the guy had 4 goals in 4 games. So I mean, I guess he's changing his game. He's evolving even more. So this could be really dynamic.
Yeah. So what do you see the future of this player in terms of ceiling, future projections?
I think, honestly, Matty Beniers has every opportunity to be like a knockoff Patrice Bergeron type player, a guy who can make several all-star games over his career, be close to a point per game, maybe slightly under in his career, but he's going to be that guy who can get you 70, 75 points. You can rely on him in every situation, and he's just going to make his teammates better, and he's a really good leader. I wouldn't be surprised if one day he got a letter on his jersey.
So the next rookie I have on my list, Scott, is Cole Perfetti from the Winnipeg Jets. What do you think of the expectation of this player for this upcoming NHL season?
Man, I love Cole Perfetti. Just everything about his game. This prospect is so intelligent. Like, I swear he has one of the highest hockey IQs I've seen in a long time. He just knows where to be on the ice in almost every situation. He can make great passes. He can, his shot is, he's got a quick release. Like, this guy can get his shot off instantly. It's not really a struggle for him in tight spaces to get a shot off. And he just seems to know exactly the right play to make before it happens. He sees the ice so well. And I think that this year he's going to be playing on the second line, likely. He's either going to play with Nicolas Ehlers or Pierre-Luc Dubois. And I think in either situation, on a second line with players like that, he has every opportunity to put up some good points. I don't think he's going to be like a huge point producer this season, but I could see him being in the like 55 to 60 point range if he's healthy.
Okay, good. So what do you think about Cole Perfetti's long-term projections on the team? What do you think his ceiling will be?
I think it depends how they end up using him, whether he's going to be long-term a center or a winger. And if he's going to be a center long-term, I think once Mark Scheifele moves on in either this season or in a couple years coming up, because it does seem like Scheifele's not going to be there long-term, I think Cole Perfetti is kind of that heir to the number 1 line center spot. And I think that means the sky's the limit for the guy. I mean, he's got all the talent in the world. He can shoot. He can make plays. He's very aware. His only real weakness is his skating is not the best. He's not the fastest skater. But other than that, like, his game is really solid all around. And I wouldn't be surprised if he has that potential to be an all-star one day and be around like the 75, 80 point mark over the next couple of years.
Good. Yeah, one thing I was really surprised about Cole Perfetti was that how far he dropped in the draft. I thought he would be a lot higher in 10th overall.
Yeah, it blew my mind. Honestly, when that draft year was, I had him in the top 5. So when he went 10th, my mind was blown. I thought for sure he would be like right there with guys like Raymond, but guess not.
Okay, Scott, good. So the player that I have on the list next, it would be Marco Rossi.
Marco Rossi.
From my Minnesota Wild.
Oh, I'm sure you're really excited about this guy.
Oh, yeah.
We know how much you love the Wild.
I love the Wild. So, What do you think his expectations are for this year? And better be a good one.
Oh, well, not to please you or anything, because I'm not looking to please you by any means, but I do have very high expectations for Marco Rossi this season. Not even just trying to make you excited here, but Marco Rossi, he's an older player. He's been drafted a few years ago. He looked really good last year in his stint in the AHL. The guy was just below a point per game player. And then on top of that, he came into this preseason and led every player in the NHL in preseason points. Granted, it is the preseason and teams aren't trying their best, but that's still ridiculous to put up 9 points in 6 preseason games as a rookie. And I think he's going to get every opportunity on the second line playing with Matthew Boldy, and has that outside shot of maybe, if Hartman underperforms or gets hurt, playing with Kaprizov, which would just be unreal. His numbers would just skyrocket.
That's my favorite player.
Oh my goodness. Enough with your Kaprizov. But yeah, Marco Rossi, just the sky's really the limit for him this year and like in his career. He's just such a talented player. I'm sure that he's going to be close to like the 65 point mark this year.
Interesting. What do you think about his future projections, his ceiling?
I think his ceiling's pretty good because I honestly can't see the Minnesota Wild keep Hardman as their number one center for a long period of time. And I'm pretty sure over the next year or two, that spot is guaranteed for Marco Rossi. And that means we're going to have Marco Rossi most likely playing with Kirill Kaprizov for the next 5 to 6 years, and that would be dynamic. This guy's ceiling would just be out of this world because, I mean, when you're playing with a player who gets 100 points like Kaprizov and a guy who can get 50 goals, and you're a good passer like Rossi is primarily, then you're laughing. Like, this guy could be like a 60 assist player in the future. You never know.
Crazy. Yeah, it was just unfortunate that he got hurt last year, but I was excited to see what he could do in the league last year, but
yeah, he had that stint with COVID where he almost died, which was a little scary.
Yeah.
That's kind of...
I think his time is now. So we're all excited to see what he can do.
Oh, he's definitely in one of my top 5 most excited players for rookies to watch this year.
All right, Scott. Next one on my list will be Owen Power from the Buffalo Sabres. What do you think he will do this upcoming season? What do you think his impact will be for this upcoming season?
I really like Owen Power as a prospect, and honestly, this year he'll probably be pretty serviceable. It looks like he's slotting in right now as of projections to be on the second defensive pairing behind Dahlin's pairing, and probably going to end up playing as like the power play 2 quarterback because it looks like Dahlin's pretty much slapped in as that power play 1 guy. But I don't think I have him as high for this year as some other people do, because a lot of people right now are projecting him to be right in the Calder race, being like a top 2 candidate, at least according to Vegas odds on this. But I can't really see it, and that's not because I don't like the player. The player is really good, guys. It's not that. It's just if Dahlin's going to be that power play 1 guy, I don't really think the ceiling for Power's point totals is going to be that high. And let's be honest, lately they really have measured defensemen too much by points. So I can't really see him actually having that level of an impact offensively. But defensively, he looks really solid. Big body player, huge, can knock people off the puck, can pretty much do it all. I really think he has a pretty solid season ahead of him.
Yeah, I would have to agree, especially like he's going to play behind Dahlin on this one. But I was a big fan of when he came into the league last year, when he played those few games. I thought he played really, really well.
Yeah, at the end of the year, he had a little stint there, and he looked like an NHLer. He didn't look out of place at all. So he should make quite an impact, at least defensively, too.
So what do you think the future of this player is, like in terms of his ceiling? Where do you think he can go?
This is where it gets interesting. I do think he has a better ceiling than Dahlin, and I think over time he could be the number 1 on that team. He might not right now, but just his stature, his size, the power, not jokes aside, but he just has a bit more of all of that than Dahlin. And I think over time, when he gets to like his mid-20s, he's going to be taking over as that number 1 true defenseman on the team and being more up there with some of these other guys on the other teams, like a Shabbat or a Heiskanen or something like that. So
yeah, well said. So Scott, my next player on the list is a kind of a controversial one. It'll be Mason McTavish from the Anaheim Ducks. What do you feel that he will do this upcoming season with the Anaheim Ducks?
He says controversial because he knows I'm not a really big Mason McTavish fan. Now, I know this hurts because he's like a Canadian hero right now with that defensive play he made for the World Juniors on the gold medal game, knocking that puck down and basically saving Canada's gold medal hopes. But I'm not as high on Mason McTavish for this season, at least, as other people are. It looks like he's going to be playing on the second line right now, most likely with a guy like Troy Terry, which isn't bad. Like, I mean, Troy Terry had a really good year, so that's a decent line to put up some points. But I just can't see him having the immediate impact some of these other guys have that I've listed before. He doesn't seem to have that level of like pop to his game, and he's a little younger than some of those other guys too. And we got to take into perspective that some of these rookies, especially in the last few years, we've seen like guys like Lafreniere, even Byfield, these young rookies have not really made the immediate impact that they were expected, or like back in the day, like someone like Connor McDavid who just walks in and puts up 1,000,000 points. And I really don't think that I can see McTavish putting up more than 50 points this year, to be honest.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. He really reminds me of the other guy that they got, Maxime Comtois, right? Who led Canadian.
Yeah, see, this is a pet peeve I'm just going to quickly list for future of this video too. I think a lot of people, when they're evaluating rookies and prospects, they put way too much emphasis on what they've seen in the World Junior Tournament. I think that's because that's like the only true time that the average fan gets to really watch these guys play, unless they're watching junior hockey or something like that, like the OHL or like the WHL. But so they really get to just base it on this sample size of like 7 to 8 World Junior games. And I think it kind of throws off perspective a little bit. Because sure, Mason McTavish had like 17 points in 7 games in the World Juniors, but this was a very weak World Juniors. First off, there was a lot of players that didn't go because of the rescheduling of the tournament. So it was not the same level of competition that they are used to having. And on top of that, I just don't see his game translating instantly the way that some of these other rookies will.
What do you think his ceiling will be then?
I do think he has a better ceiling. Like, I'm not fully hating on this guy. I'm not saying he's a bust. I don't want anyone to be in the comments like, wow, you really hated Mason McTavish here. Because I don't. I have him on this list of 10 impact rookies. I don't think he's a bust by any means. And I think he has a good future. His future is going to be fine. I do think he could be a 30-goal scorer in the future for this team. 30, 35 potentially. And maybe like a 65, 70-point guy. I just don't think he's going to be a superstar. That's all. I don't think, for example, like he's going to be any better than Trevor Zegras, who I think is a lot better of a player in almost every way.
So the next player I have on my list is probably your favorite player on this list.
Oh, probably. Not even a question.
And it is Alexander Holtz from the New Jersey Devils. What do you think about what kind of impact do you think he will have this upcoming season?
Well, how much time do we got here, Howin? I thought we were supposed to keep this under 20 minutes. So Alexander Holtz has been one of my favorite prospects since he was drafted, basically. And it's funny because this is a player who has a lot of flaws to his game. He's kind of lacks speed, acceleration, and kind of got in trouble for being a little lost on the ice sometimes. But over this offseason, he's really worked on that quite a bit. He's been training with Jesper Bratt's coach from back home in Sweden, and he's really fixed his game up. Now he's looked a lot faster this preseason. He's more able to jump up on the rush when it's like 2-on-1s or 3-on-2s. And the thing that I've always loved about Alexander Holtz's game more than anything is his shot is absolutely lethal. Like, if you guys have time later, just go watch some highlights of just Alexander Holtz's shot. It is so different than almost any other prospect or rookie you'll see. He has so much power on this shot. Like, it is ridiculous. I will literally watch a highlight. Like, last year in the preseason, I watched him play. And he was playing against my team, the Washington Capitals, in a preseason game. And I literally watched him shoot it, and I had to freeze frame and slow it down, and I did not see the puck from the time he shot it from the circle to the time it was under the bar in the back of the net. Like, absolutely unreal shot. And it's looking like right now he's projected to play on the first line with one of my favorite players, Jack Hughes. Like, could it get any better, guys? Jack Hughes, Alexander Holtz together. Oh, it's just... Oh, it's too much. I can't. I'm too excited. Yeah. Too excited for this line.
To add on to that, me and Scott went to Red Deer to watch the World Juniors when they had the Sweden versus Russia game. My goodness, that shot that he...
Yeah, he's unreal.
Oh my God, he's so good to see in person too.
I'll be honest, I'm not going to like go out and say he's going to be like some of the other guys like a Marco Rossi, Cole Perfetti in points. I think his point total probably be a little lower. And I do think there's a chance that he does get sent down to the AHL at some point. He might not play the full 82 games. He might be around like 60, 65 games played. But I just think that he'll have a real impact on New Jersey's season this year.
What do you think his long-term projection is then? in terms of like how do you see him being like a 70-point player, 80-point player, 40-goal scorer? Like what
I think he can be a 40-goal scorer.
40-goal scorer?
That might be my what's it called, wild take of the show here. But I do think Alexander Holtz does have long-term 40-goal potential because that shot is lethal. And if he's going to be playing with a player as good as Jack Hughes, the sky's really the limit for him.
Okay, next player on my list, going from your favorite player to another one of my favorite player from my team, Minnesota Wild. What do you think about Calen Addison?
First off, I think this is kind of ridiculous that there's been two Minnesota players already. That seems kind of biased here. I feel like you stacked the deck on this list here. But on the real, Calen Addison has a real good chance to make an impact for the Minnesota Wild this year. Something they've kind of lacked is some offense from the blue line, and Calen Addison brings that in spades. Last year when he was playing in the AHL, he put up some ridiculous numbers. He was just under a point per game in the AHL as a defenseman, which is kind of ridiculous. And on top of that, he's, I think, more NHL ready in some ways because he has had stints in the big league, but also he's a little older. He's 22 years old. He's had some time to marinate down there. He's gotten ready, and I think that he's not going to be a guy who's playing like 20, 25 minutes type thing like other big defensemen or like a guy like Owen Power, for example. But I do think he's going to have an offensive impact with this team. Most likely play as like the fifth defenseman, but he will also be able to be on the power play 1 or power play 2. And he's a really good puck mover. So I'm excited to see how that changes their power play.
So for future ceiling, do you see him becoming a top 4 defenseman on the team?
I think he could compete with a role of someone like Jared Spurgeon. I'm not saying right away. This would take time because I think Spurgeon's still going to be their number one for a while. He's just too solid all around. But I do think Calen Addison has that chance to be like a top 3 defenseman on their team in the future. Good. With some offensive upside.
That's what I like to hear. Good. All right, Scott. Next player on the list. Kent Johnson from the Columbus Blue Jackets. What do you think? How do you think he would do this upcoming season in the NHL? I know he just got sent down, but
yeah. So Kent Johnson has been kind of getting this like up and down talk from a lot of people when it comes to actually if he's playing this year or not right away. And I think there's a very good chance that we see Kent Johnson play 60, 65 games with the big club and then some games in the minors in the AHL. He looks to be getting close to being ready to be that NHL center. But the thing is, the center position in the NHL is so hard. And it's one of the hardest positions to crack as a young kid. And I think that it only really would work for him if he was playing on a little more limited minutes. I don't think they could really throw him right on the top line right away, playing 20-something minutes a game. I don't think he's ready for that yet. I expect him to see some time in the top 6, though, because I don't think they're going to bring him in after a little stint that he already had there last year where he kind of struggled a little bit. But I don't think they're going to bring him in to not play him on like the second line, for example. So that would be something to look for. I just don't see him as a big point producer this year. Like he might be able to get like 35 points or something like that. It's not like nothing against the player. I just don't see it this year.
For the future of this player, playing on with the likes of Johnny Gaudreau and Patrick Laine, do you see this player being a point per game player down the road?
I don't see him being a point per game caliber player. But I do think he has a really bright future with the Jackets, mainly because he plays center. And that team, as I think we've mentioned before in other previous videos, has no centermen. Like
bad.
They have the worst centermen 1 through 4 in the entire NHL. It's bad. So that's really good for Johnson because that gives him a chance to really crack the roster and to take top offensive minutes. So he actually will have a chance, I think, in the next year or two to play with guys like Johnny Hockey and Patrick Laine. So it could be good for his future, for sure.
All right, Scott, we're at the 9th player of the list already. And we have, at number 9, we have Jake Sanderson from the Ottawa Senators. What do you think his impact will be for this upcoming NHL season?
So when Sanderson was first drafted a few years ago, I thought they reached a little bit. I thought there was a lot of better players they could have taken since they already had so many defensemen kind of in their system, right? But I do think he's developed really well, actually. The extra time that he spent in college especially has been very helpful for the guy. But I don't know if he's going to be a super offensive player this year. I do project him playing in the top 4 on this team. Like he's going to be getting the minutes, probably on the second pairing after the Shabbat and Zub pairing. So I see him as like a power play 2 quarterback type guy because Shabbat's locked in as that number 1, let's be real. and probably someone who plays about 20 minutes a night, which for someone that young, that's impressive. Like, I mean, as a 20-year-old playing for like 20 minutes a game, that's nothing to scoff at for sure. And I like his two-way game. I think he is a tremendous two-way defenseman.
So what do you think he will do in the future? What do you see his highest ceiling is for this player?
Well, as long as Thomas Chabot's there, I don't think that there's any way he can jump him for like the number one defenseman on the Senators. But I can see him being like the number two defenseman on this team, like when he's in his prime. He could definitely be that guy who puts up like 45, 50 points potentially, probably closer to 45, and just is really good in his own zone on the back check and all that stuff. So I love the player from a team perspective. I think he's going to be a very good addition to this team for years to come.
Yeah. One thing I want to add on about Jake Sanderson is he played in the same program as Brady Tkachuk, Shane Pinto, and a bunch of other guys on this Ottawa Senator team. So they're all very close group, very tight-knit group here. So I could see a long future for this team for Jake Sanderson.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Okay, final one on my list. I have Jack Quinn from the Buffalo Sabres. What do you think he would do? What kind of impact do you think he would do this upcoming season?
Man, when Jack Quinn was drafted, I hated Jack Quinn. Like, I was not a fan of that pick. I'm like, classic Buffalo making a pick that's kind of a little, But you know what? I changed my mind. I've seen the light, and I actually like Jack Quinn's game. I think he's a really solid player. And I do think he has a potential this year alone to score 25 goals. It looks like right now he's going to be playing on the second line, and he's going to be playing with Alex Tuch, who I think you've heard we both really like. And I think that means that he has a chance to go for like 25 goals, maybe 30 assists, like 50, 55 points range kind of thing. And he's going to get power play time because, I mean, he's probably already like a top 2, top 3 shooter on this team as a young kid already. And last year in the AHL, he went wild. He was actually the best rookie in the AHL last year. He was over like 1.2 points per game. It was ridiculous. This guy couldn't have been more red hot. If it wasn't for the fact that I think he got hurt near the end of the year, he would have been playing a lot of games with Buffalo to end the season.
Okay, so what do you think he would do? What do you think his maximum ceiling is for as a player? Like, where do you think he can go?
I think Jack Quinn could be a 35 goal scorer, maybe like a 65, 70 point player. We can't really just project all these young kids to be all stars. We can't just say all these guys. This is just
a fun part, right?
They can't all just be like 90-point players, 80-point players.
We gotta be realistic.
Yeah, we have to be realistic on some of these guys. And I know everyone wants their rookies on their team to be like the next like top 100-point player, but I just can't see Jack Quinn's ceiling being that high. But I could see like a 35-35 stat line or like a 30-30 stat line type thing in the future.
That's
which
pretty
would
good.
Be, I mean, hey, Buffalo would take that. That would make them a pretty solid team.
Yeah. So that is our list of 10 rookies who we feel will have the impact for this upcoming NHL season. But at the same time, there are other notable mentions out that we had to leave out, but could make a good impact this upcoming season. Now I'm going to start listing these names, and you're going to tell me what you think about these players. Shane Wright from Seattle Kraken, Juraj Slavkovsky from the Montreal Canadiens, Dylan Holloway from the Edmonton Oilers, and William Eklund from the San Jose Sharks. What do you feel about these players?
Yeah, so all these players are pretty solid. The thing that had them not cracking our top 10 list is either opportunity that they're going to have this year or age. So Shane Wright and Juraj Slavkovsky are both 18 years old. They're young. They were drafted really high, like first overall for Slavkovsky and fourth overall for Shane Wright. But I don't know if you guys watched any of the preseason action on these guys and some of the training camps. Slavkovsky did not look great. And I'm not trying to be a hater here. I'm not saying his future's bad or anything. I'm not saying what a bust. I'm just saying I don't think this year he's going to have that much of an impact, at least compared to the other guys we've listed. Shane Wright wasn't terrible in the preseason, and it looks like he's going to have some pretty good chance to crack this roster and play some third line minutes likely and some second power play time. But I just don't think when he's already on the same team as Matty Beniers that he's going to have the same opportunity as Beniers, and I think that his numbers are going to not be super special this year. But he has a good future for sure. Dylan Holloway is an interesting one. I almost thought he should have been worthy of the top 10, but it's not necessarily because of his talent as a player. He's a very good back checker, solid, like gritty player. But unless he's playing with Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl, I don't think his point totals will be that high. I don't think he's the type of player that could play on the third line and carry his own line and put up points. As far as William Eklund's concerned, one of my absolute favorite prospects, like in my personal top 3. The reason I can't put him in this list is because the San Jose Sharks are using him in such a weird way. They've already sent him down to the AHL to start the season. He didn't play the first 2 games in Europe. And I don't know why, because like he 1000%, this team's terrible. He should be on that top 6. He is someone who can drive play and make things happen. And of the 4 rookies I just listed in our honorable mentions, by far my like highest ceiling. But we'll have to see what San Jose ends up doing with him if they call him up after 5 games, 10 games, 20 games. But I think by the end of the year, he will have some sort of an impact and be called up.
Great. So that is our list of rookies that we feel are going to have an impact on this upcoming NHL season. So that was Scott's hot take on the rookies here. But yeah, so if you have other rookies that you feel should be on this list, make sure you leave in the comments section below and we'll try to get back to you as soon as we can. But other than that, we are done for this video and we'll see you in the next video.
All right, thanks guys.
See you.